most of you, so I'll be very brief. Plus, I'm in the Montecito Journal today, so you can read all about me in the journal. Talk a little bit about the water challenges we face in Montecito. Introduce my fellow water security team slate members. They'll talk a little bit about their backgrounds and why they're running. And then really want to spend most of the time on Q&A. That's really what we want to do, answer your questions, and hopefully if we've done our jobs, have you guys excited about us, galvanized to go out and spread the word, because that's what it's going to take for us to win this election is votes. And people are going to make up their minds to vote, one, and two, who to vote for based on gentle, if not so gentle nudges from their friends, basically, and that's critical in this community. And you guys are all important members of the community, so anything you can do to help us would be greatly appreciated. All right, so my background, for those of you who don't know me, is I've had 3 careers. I have been a practicing lawyer at Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher, both in Los Angeles and Washington, D.C. I have been a senior executive in the federal government, in the Treasury Department, and the Department of Homeland Security. And throughout the last 14 years, I've been a mostly successful entrepreneur in management consulting, data analytics, and now some environmental entrepreneurship, which is what's blemishing my otherwise pristine track record. What you might conclude from that is that I have the right sort of set of legal, negotiating, environmental and business skills to be a good addition to the water board, or I can't hold a job. And so I believe it's the former, not the latter. But in any event, I've decided to run for the water board really because in Montecito, as everyone here knows, we have a lot of to-dos on our to-do lists. We have a lot of challenges in this community. We're recovering. We've got some work to do still. Some people here have done some amazing work in the recovery. So we got a lot of things on our worry list, right? And water should not be one of them. Water supply should not be one of them. But if we don't change, it's going to be a big worry item for all of us. And really that's what I wanted to spend my couple minutes talking about today. I've got one of our current directors here who will correct me if I'm wrong, toe plow on anything I say about what's going on at the water district. But fundamentally, at a very simple level, what folks need to recognize in Montecito is that our water supply is largely dependent on snow in the Sierras and rain in the Cachuma watershed. About 70 to 85% of our water depends on the weather. That was true in 2008, and it's true today. And I personally find that entirely unacceptable. First year of the drought, you can get a pass, you can hope for rain. Second year of the drought, you can't just pray for rain, you gotta do something. Third year of the drought, you really gotta do something. By the 8th year of the drought, you really ought to be on plan B or plan C. Sadly, we're still praying for rain as our primary strategy. Some of that is beginning to change because of the work that Floyd and Tobe have done on the board, but they've been 2 out of 5. So they have not been able to force change that we need in the community. They've had to cajole and wring it out of the other incumbents on the board. So how do we get ourselves out of this predicament? Well, the platform that we've put together, the slate has put together and we've all contributed to, basically boils down to doing as much as we possibly can to capitalize on the water that we have, as we say, on this side of the mountain, that's in our control, in our local community, in our area, and take maximum advantage of it. What does that actually translate to in practice? Well, it translates into a number of potential solutions. One would be, right, having a desal agreement with the city of Santa Barbara, which has been in the media for 4 years, and we'll talk about that in a second. Having a much more sophisticated groundwater management plan, which we're in the process of putting together. Doing a better job of actually capturing and storing the rainwater that does fall in our community, because we do get rain, and unfortunately a lot of it does not go into the groundwater basin, it goes into the ocean. And recycling wastewater. And recycling wastewater and desalination are 2 issues that are sort of front and center in this election, and the reality is they should have been dealt with years ago. Recycling wastewater has been in the sanitation district's strategic master plan for 14 years. 14 years. And we don't have any recycled wastewater in our community today, still. We have a potential pilot project that will water their lawn, basically, in the works if they pull it together. I think that's totally unacceptable. We could generate about 500 acre feet a year of recycled water if we could get cooperation from the sanitation district. That's about, just think of it as roughly 10% of our overall water needs in the community. It's an easy way to keep track of that number. We're in the 4th year of what should have been a 4-month negotiation over desalination with the city of Santa Barbara, right? I'm not trying to make an overly complex negotiation overly simple, but I've done a lot of complex deals and they don't take 4 years. They just don't. So we have come together to change this dynamic. And the only way we're going to change it is to turn over the boards at both the sanitation district and the water district. And I wanted to spend a second on sanitation because it's important to understand the relationship between the two. They're two separate boards. Sanitation is the organization that takes the wastewater coming out of our households, right, if you're not on a septic system, treats it, and right now discharges it into the ocean. And doesn't treat it at a particularly high level before doing that either. In order to do recycling wastewater, we have to partner with sanitation to treat that water and then take it and purvey it. The water district is the purveyor. But it's a collaborative process, and it has to be a cooperative arrangement. And there's been a lot of discussion about this, but not a lot of action, and there's been a lot of finger pointing between the two organizations over the last several years, and this needs to stop. But a lot of people don't even understand the sanitation role in recycling, so I wanted to bring that out. So for us, the key is to get, as I said, the boards turned over so that we can take ideas that are on the table, add to them, figure out the most cost-effective solutions, and get going. We are right back to where we were in terms of our water supply. We're right back to where we were. 2017 rain is kind of a distant memory already. So we're pressed. We really need to get going on getting solutions so that 3, 4, 5 years from now, if we continue in this pattern, 9 out of our last 16 years have been substantially below average rainfall and precipitation this year. If we continue in this pattern, we are really going to be in a pickle if we don't have supply here that we can depend on ourselves and not be at the mercy of the outside agencies and entities that currently control our water supply. So with that, what I'd like to do, and I've probably run too long already, is have each of my fellow slate members come up and introduce themselves and talk a little bit about why they're running. And I thought we'd start with the sanitation district candidates. So that would be Woody Barrett and Dana Newquist, who are here tonight. And I'll turn it over to water, and then we'll go Q&A.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up tonight. Let me just start out by saying we're going to need your help. This is going to be a tough election. Sanitary district is World War III right now, if you haven't been reading the Montecito Journal. But in any case, I've started about 4 months ago on this, going to the meetings of both the sanitation and the water. Professionally, I'm a geologist, so I look at things totally different from engineers, attorneys, and all the rest of the professionals out here. I'm sort of an artiste and think outside the box. In fact, I don't think there is a box. But being that as it may, I'm also a small businessman, and I really got a taste of government, and I was going like, holy cow. So we need your support to get our slate. We have super talented people, and everybody's busy. And I can tell you, no one has time to do this, but it needs to be done. Time is of the urgency. The clock that we're ticking against is, quite simply, if we get a big rain this winter, or we get a big rain next winter, this will be put back another 14 years. So we really can't stand that. So we need the 3 on the Montecito Water Department. We need the 2, Dana and I, on the Sanitation Department. And sanitation, how to get into all of that. The City of Santa Barbara's been doing, it's called Purple Pipe. That's tertiary level. And they've been doing it for 27 years. So this is not new technology. We've lived here, we're going on 18 years, we're on Sinaloa. All 3 of our children went to MUS. All 3 went to Santa Barbara High School. They played on the grass, they played football, they played soccer, they played all the sports. That grass is irrigated with purple pipe water from the City of Santa Barbara, as is every park, every green area, every government area. So this is not, it's not recreating the wheel. And Montecito should be at the leading edge of this. And that's what we want to see our sanitary district do, is be the leaders, get the best equipment, the newest, the highest efficiency equipment. And it's a win-win situation in that the discharge that's going off Butterfly Beach, it's 1,100 feet out, 23 feet of water. That's not very deep. But essentially that discharge will slow down to a trickle. And it'll be used to irrigate. We don't have enough water to do everybody's houses, so don't worry about that. We don't have enough water to do gold standard and re-injection. We don't have enough for that. We've got about 340 acre feet a year we can get. And so with 340 we can do, the cemetery takes 80. We can do one golf course. The golf courses average 200,000 gallons a day of water, just for your information. That's an average 18-holer, more in the summer, less in the winter, but it's quite a bit. So we don't have enough to do lots of area unless everybody starts taking more showers. So that's the bottom line. But my side is technical, and I'll get into all the numbers if anybody wants to talk to me afterwards, and I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Collaboration here
tonight. What it's really going to take is a lot of collaboration between water and sanitation. We're putting out 500,000 gallons of water out to the ocean every day. And there's, we've got to hook up these two departments. And right now they're separate. And they don't want to be hooked up right now, which is insane. Anyway, I've been here since '84. I've done a lot. If you were at the car show over the weekend, that was my design. And thanks to Roy Martinez, he was right in the middle. He was ground zero. I started the 4th of July parade. I was on the Montecito Association board for 6 years. I was their treasurer for 3. But when you're starting to work on certain projects, let's just take the car show for an example. As a visitor, you just go over there, you walk through, and oh, this is cool. But if you think about all the things that have to happen in collaboration to move that so you can shut down a street, you get barriers, you can get the cars, you can get the volunteers, it's a massive project. This is a massive project, but it's vital. I mean, the car show is great. It raised money for the Santa Barbara Police Department, but this is vital. So we need to be elected so we can help water on both sides, incoming and outgoing. Anyway, thanks for coming.
Hi, Corey Heyman. I think I know everybody here, and met some new faces tonight. So, picking up where Brian left off, I'm running for the water board, so I'm the water side of things. And Montecito, as you've heard and read recently and as you've experienced, is at a crossroads in its future development. We need to build sustainable, resilient infrastructure now more than ever since the January disasters. And water is the most important resource in Montecito. So it is unacceptable and inexcusable that we do not have sustainable water strategies in Montecito. And we are committed as a slate. I'm honored to be part of the talent in this team to bring that forward in our platform. And what do I bring to this table? I professionally was a healthcare compliance attorney on a national scale, and I worked with dozens, if not hundreds, of government agencies and corporate business partners throughout the country. And so navigating those systems is part of my package that I can bring to this table. And recently, for the past 5 years, I've been a very strong voice for Montecito as an advocate. I currently chair the Land Use Committee for the Montecito Association, and I have mastered navigating our governance in Montecito, which is the county, the state, the federal, and probably some other agency that I haven't thought of, but I have worked that system very well to solve day-to-day problems in Montecito, as well as very large problems in Montecito, and we've got Ashley Mayfield here, so I'm going to give her a little bit of credit, but just getting our trails reopened to restore took brokering a meeting with the feds and the state and our local offices to get just permission to hire to bring Ashley in to restore the trails. We almost lost the trails. So my experience with the local agencies will bring value to the team to provide the coordination, collaboration that is needed to bring the water security to fruition. So with that, I will now turn it over to our team leader, Ken Coates.
My background is very different.
Center stage, Mr. Coates, please. Where you belong.
My background is very different. I spent 35 years in Michigan working in the automotive industry, which is a whole different kettle of fish from one, California, but two, it's a very different world in terms of complexity and the kinds of skills that it takes to deal with the problems that we clearly now have here. About 4 years ago, I couldn't understand why we were having a water problem. So I started going to the water board meetings, and I quickly figured out why we were having problems. No plan, literally no plan. Plan hadn't been done for 10 years. A dysfunctional board and two lawyers who were arguing with each other almost continuously in the meetings could not agree on anything. The rest of the board were good people, but they really didn't have the background or the capability of dealing with the magnitude of issues that we have here. So at that point, I got involved with a handful of other people in this community who felt the way I did, that something had to be done. The first course of action was to get Toe and Floyd Wicks to run for the water board 2 years ago. We made that happen. They got elected, and they have largely transformed the board. But they can't do it alone because there are only 2 out of 5 board members. We now need to get 3 more seats on the board so that Floyd and Tobe then can get the job done that we all recognize needs to be done to serve the community. Part of the process that we went through earlier this year was trying to sort out, well, can the water board do it alone? And the answer was no. We need to have the sanitary district board involved because, as everyone has pointed out, the 2 districts have largely been loggerheads. They point the fingers at each other. They don't get along well. And in part, that's because of the personalities of the individuals. But it's also because we have fiefdoms that have grown up. And it's sort of the standard governmental bureaucracy in place. Oh, don't mess with our stuff. We're perfectly content with what we're doing. And for all of us who live here and have to suffer through this, to me it's appalling and it's unacceptable. So I come to the point where it's sort of a simple thing. We, the people, have to take control. The county's not going to do it for us. The federal government's not going to do it. The Das Williams of the world may give lip service to trying to help us, but in fact, he's more interested in other things than he is in what's going on here. So I believe we have to take control ourselves. And one way of doing that is getting 3 candidates, Corey, Brian, and I on the water board, Dana and Woody on the sanitary district board, and then we can affect change. But to do that, we need your vote. First of all, we need you to talk to your friends, send them email blitzes, please, saying, hey, we heard these guys, they've got their heads screwed on straight. We want you to support them because we think they're the right people for the job. And at the end, vote on November 6th, or sooner, or more often. Thank you.
All right, so real quick before we open it up for Q&A, and please feel free to fire away with any questions you have. I just want to highlight one thing that Corey and Ken both touched on, but I really wanted to drive home, which is when I was in business, I don't claim to have a lot of brilliant insights in business, but one insight I had, which is shared by other people who've been successful as well, is that the best way to guarantee your success is to surround yourself with other very smart people who are independent, have a different perspective and a different background, and then talk. Think about problems, talk through possible solutions, bring your perspective, and then build consensus as to what the right answer is, and then move out and execute against it. And that is what this team brings to the table. I can assure you, I only knew Corey before this process got started. This is an independent group. You're going to hear in the media some assertions that are completely false, that this is not an independent group of people coming together to do what's right for the community. And I just wanted to say that that is completely untrue, and I couldn't be happier. And I will tell you that the platform we have, the materials we put together have been refined because we're all participating and we have changed our minds in the course of this process to try to get to the right answer. So this is a terrific group, and I really do hope that you guys will support us and have your friends get behind us as well, because it's critical for the community that we fix these problems. So with that, let's take some questions.